to Insights from an Autistic. I'm Arman Khodaei, I'm 26 years old and on the autism spectrum. Today's video, I'm actually answering 3 questions that I got asked since my last video. And I'll have more videos coming, promise. So, the first question I got is, what is my definition of autism? So here's the thing. If you want a true definition of autism, read the DSM manual. What I'm going to provide is my own opinion based on my own life experiences, working with other autistic people that have come to my group, and my interactions with other people on the autism spectrum. So, what is autism exactly? It's a very good question. Well, for me, I first and foremost consider autism a social communication disorder. Now, some people on the autism spectrum have a very good time communicating. Temple Grandin, anyone who's written a book on the autism spectrum, there's been a few people, myself. But at some point in our lives, communication was a great challenge. Being able to explain ourselves, being able to express emotion, being able to inflect different tones of voice, anything related to communication, whether it be written, verbal, whatever. Being able to understand sentences, being able to formulate a sentence, comprehension of sentences, and then of course socializing, making eye contact, being empathetic to people, allowing people to touch you, like on your shoulder or whatever, actually looking at the person when talking to them, acknowledging them. A lot of times there is even no acknowledgement whatsoever, even though we're very well aware of the person talking to us. We just choose to ignore them sometimes. And so anything that's considered a social, what is considered not socially correct, and that would be considered autism. So that's the first aspect of it. And obviously you can't just have that, because there's like shy people. But the difference between a shy person and an autistic person is that a shy person, maybe eye contact is a little bit hard for them, but they have an understanding of what is and isn't appropriate socializing. They're able to communicate. A shy person can read. They can write. They can write messages. So there's a communication aspect to it. So autism is not shyness. The majority, if not all, autistic people are shy. Well, I think there's some autistic people that are shy, but it affects. It actually affects our ability to communicate and socialize. So that's the difference. Shyness does affect our ability to socialize, and you might even have social anxiety with shyness. But there's all those other aspects that go into it as well. And that's the first thing about autism. And then there are traits that come with autism. And not everyone on the autism spectrum will have these traits. Perhaps one of the biggest things is having a very hard time dealing with change. Any sort of change can be very hard. If it's a change through a routine, going to a new place, meeting new people, that can cause a lot of anxiety, make things very challenging, very difficult. And it can cause anxiety, being overwhelmed. Being overwhelmed is a very common autism characteristic. Not everyone on the autism spectrum gets overwhelmed, but a lot of people do. Especially the more, actually, yeah, for a lot of autistic people do get very overwhelmed. By even the simplest things, and people who aren't, autistic, they may not understand what the universe is going on, what's causing this overwhelmingness. So, some examples of being overwhelmed would be, too much noise going on, too much stimulus, wanting to do something, but then being forced into a situation you don't want to be in, whether it's being forced to go somewhere, forced to go to a wedding, forced to meet some relatives, change to the way the furniture is, moving things around, bad idea. A lot of different things can trigger being overwhelmed. So there's that. Anxiety is very prevalent in a lot of people on the autism spectrum. The difference though between, say, someone who is autistic with anxiety and someone that suffers from anxiety in general is, most people, I think a lot of people experience anxiety at some point in their lives, but it's usually more rational things. For us, irrational things might trigger what to other people is like irrational, like having to go into a classroom with other people, that might trigger some anxiety. Sitting down at the dinner table might trigger anxiety. A lot of different things. It's hard to say exactly what, because there's so many different potential possibilities. Not all of them are social related, and the anxiety can be constant, just a constant barrage of anxiety that never goes away. And then, tantrums can be very common. There could be autism meltdowns. I think tantrums most prevalently happen at a younger age, but some adults have them too. And depending on how, where they are on the spectrum, how able they are to control themselves as they get older. These meltdowns, tantrums, etc. is usually caused by being overwhelmed. Sometimes it's not even necessarily by, outside sources. Sometimes it comes from within. The stinking old thoughts, or the noises, the lighting, someone saying something, or when I say someone saying something, it could be a random thing, just for some reason the way that they say it makes you angry, it makes you upset. Even though they're saying something perfectly normal. There's nothing wrong with what they're saying, there's nothing in their tone of voice, but it makes you upset. And so that can cause being overwhelmed. And so there's that. And then of course there's stimming behaviors. Very commonly happen, hand flappings. So if you have a stimming behaviors are very common. Hand flapping, rocking back and forth are very common. Sometimes flicking one's fingers when getting very excited. That can be very common. For me, I have the stimming, especially with the fingers actually, but sometimes with the hands too. Getting very excited. For me, it's getting very excited. Sometimes though, for some people, it's a coping mechanism for a stimulus going on around them. So I guess ultimately, I would define autism as being affecting one's ability to socialize, communicate, and being overwhelmed due to various reasons. I don't know what causes that. It could be, the right and left brain, the right and left hemisphere is not processing, or our brain processing things in a different way, just a different way of thinking. Those are different, a lot of different things that go into that. So that's my main definition of autism. There's a lot of other aspects to it, but I think that if you see those two things, those common things, socializing, being overwhelmed by a lot of different things, suffering from a lot of, not saying anxiety, but just having difficulties, being able to communicate, etc. All of that together is a primary component of autism. And then it affects people to varying degrees. Sometimes you can be very severely impacted by autism, because autism is a wide spectrum. So that's what really makes it very hard to define. And the fact that you have someone who can't change has to wear diapers as an adult, has to go into a group home potentially, versus someone who's going to college, who has a job. There's even some autistic people who have girlfriends. I had a girlfriend at one point. So there's a lot of success stories out there too. And so you see a person on one end of the spectrum, and that's actually been, the media's really been focusing on the very impacted by autism. So you have the very impacted by autism side of it. And then you have, someone who's like me, who is living my life's not the most successful, but I'm able to talk to you, I'm able to communicate. So I'm enjoying some level of success. And I have my 2-year college degree. I don't have a 4-year degree, but that's the biggest thing. And some parents, they get, their role is their child is very impacted, and to them that's autism. And then there's people, such as myself, who are very high functioning, and that's their role. And the truth is that autism isn't a very impacted person. It isn't a very high functioning person. It isn't even about the person who's in the middle. It's not even really. It's wide spectrum, but I wouldn't even say it's about the degree to which someone's impacted. It's how it impacts someone. So what I mean by that is that, was this person handicapped in a social way? Were they handicapped communication-wise? Were they having a hard time dealing with changes? Etc., etc., etc. Which is ultimately what the DSM is all about. It's about, do they have this, and this characteristic? So what I'm saying is that that's the main components of autism. And that's how I would define autism, for the most part. So at least that's what's most important to me for my observations and thinking about autism for the time being. So that was the first of 3 questions. So this is going to be a long video. Second 2 questions won't take as long to answer. Second question: Why are autistics more hypersensitive to noise, light, etc.? Well, not every autistic person is hypersensitive to noise, light, etc., but a lot of them are. I believe that it has to do with the processing. The processing, because for me, even sometimes certain touch, there'll be a hypersensitivity to it. So I think there's like this crunching, not crunching, but there's this tug. There's this this feeling of being like having this weight on you. And I think we already have this overwhelming weight on us, and then these little things add on to it, onto the weight, and then that's one more weight added on, and it just becomes kind of painful in a way. Not painful in the sense like like getting poked by a needle painful, but like a very heavy burden painful kind of a way. And so I think it has a lot to do with the sensory overload and so many, and the brain processing so many different things, and it just keeps coming at you, and it's hard to process all. So it's one more process being added on, and it just adds on to that weight. So you're adding another 100 pounds onto you, and just drags you down. At least that's what I don't know if that's the best way to explain it, but I'll have to do it for the time being. Number 3, why do autistics behave the way they do when they have an autistic episode? I'm assuming that this person means a meltdown or a tantrum of sort, or maybe being overwhelmed and rocking back and forth, or hand flapping, or something like that. Well, every single type of autistic episode, whether it's a tantrum, hand flapping, rocking back and forth, they're always done as a coping mechanism, or trying to have control over your situation. So sometimes an autistic episode might be as a result of wanting control. So this is your way of having control over it. Like you don't have control over whether or not you go somewhere, so you have this episode to be in control. Because for autism, one of the big, that's another thing I didn't really talk about in my definition for autism, but being in control is very important. That's what the whole thing about not wanting to deal with change is about. That absolutely, for being in absolute control of the tiniest detail of one's life. So, the way everything's arranged in the house, if there's one little change, then you've lost control of your life, and bam, everything goes to hell. So part of the autistic episode sometimes is about having that control, because like I'm saying, it's very, very crucial in a lot of cases, not all cases, but it's very crucial to be in control of your situation. It's hard to go with the flow of things, and I had a very hard time myself going with the flow of things for a very, very long time until I started to do meditation. So meditation actually helped me learn to let go and get in the flow of things. So that's one reason. Another reason, like I said, is a coping mechanism. So hand flapping, rocking back and forth, tantrum, or whatever type of other autistic episode that might exist, is done as a coping mechanism. A coping mechanism. So sometimes to feel good, sometimes it's to release all the input. So sometimes rocking back and forth, by doing it, you're letting it go. It's getting released. Or the tantrum, you're releasing it. You've had all this buildup of crap, and you're just letting it go. So that's the reason for that. So those are my answers to those 3 questions. More videos of awesomeness will come. I have some very awesome topics that I plan on talking about. So stay tuned for those new videos, which I hope to have up within the next few days. So I thank you for watching, and I wish everyone an awesome day of superly awesome awesomeness. Thank you.